Hi, I'm Nam. The thing that makes a thread different from other shows is that we look at problems, but we also look at solutions. And these solutions are informed by insights from our AI, Polly. The woman behind Polly, Erin, speaks to me every month on whatever topic we're talking about this month. It's reimagining work. So what does that look like? Does that mean a hybrid work week, a 4-day work week? I spoke to Erin Kelly from ASI to find out what Ontarians had to say. Hey, Erin, it's really nice to see you again.
Great to see you, Nam.
The pandemic really brought work and workplace issues to the forefront. According to Polly, how have worker priorities shifted?
You have control over where you work and what you do. There's so much going on in our world today where we don't have control, right? Whether it's war in Europe or it's a pandemic or it's protests happening in your city, as I experienced recently. So we are seeing people trying to take more control over the things that they do have power over. We saw a lot of people move during the pandemic. I've always wanted to move. Now's the time. And similarly, we're seeing a lot of people rethink because they've been forced to rethink work because they went from, in many cases, going into the office. Well, at least some people did, to working from home. Of course, there are other groups that didn't have that option. But if we look at the two groups, the people who had the option to go and work from home, they are now rethinking, do they want to go back to the office? And then the people who did not have that opportunity while all their friends were working from home are starting to think, do I want to work in this type of field anymore? Being an essential worker was really, really tough on people during the pandemic. And so we are seeing people everywhere rethink the careers they want to have and the conditions under which they want to work.
Does Polly know what careers are seeing the biggest impacts and why people are quitting?
Yeah, it's really interesting. We did a count of people who said, congratulations on your new job versus congratulations on quitting your job. And we saw for the first time, this is more people getting congratulations for throwing in the towel than for, say, getting a promotion or what have you. So there's definitely huge engagement on this. The sectors that are the most affected are healthcare, for obvious reasons. People are burnt out, and hospitality. Now, hospitality, there's a lot of workers in hospitality, but they were very, very hard hit financially because a lot of business went down. A lot of people were laid off. And so people are thinking, do I want to keep working in this field if it's that unstable? So burnout and instability are the two main reasons that we're seeing for why people are resigning.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Burnout and the workload. I think we had this saying, I'm pandemic fine. When you ask someone, how are you? Because you didn't want to complain if you had a job and you had a roof over your head. So you would say, I'm fine, but not really fine. What does Polly see around the correlation between overwork and burnout?
If you're overworked, there's a lot of people complaining about mental health, burnout, and asking for solutions for that. So they're burned out not just from their job, but often increased family responsibilities. So we're seeing a lot of, especially parents with young children, complaining about burnout and the inability to either work from home or go to work. And so a lot of them are seeing resignation. We're seeing people that are resigning without even having another job to go to. So income is taking a real backseat. And a lot of people are actually saying money is less important to me now than it used to be. And I'm considering other factors when I look at a job that I want to have. And primary among those are a good work culture, um, people talking about wanting to have a 4-day work week or work less, having more flexibility. And these things are more important than money.
You and I have probably been hearing this a lot, trying to find this work-life balance, which is kind of was impossible before the pandemic. But now with people working from home, the hours just seem to get longer and longer. What does Polly see when it comes to work-life balance?
Yeah, people are definitely seeing that. And they're definitely, and it's hard to know that. I mean, we definitely see a lot of people saying work hours seem longer and longer. Now, employers, interestingly enough, are saying no. We're seeing less productivity in the second year of people working from home than when they were working at the office. So are people working longer, or is it just more burdensome, or do the days seem longer when you're in the same place the whole time? And but sometimes maybe it's just you wake up, I may as well check my email first thing in the morning while I'm having my tea. And so it's hard to know whether work hours are longer or it's just less efficient, but we definitely see people complaining about it, and also the inability to juggle all of those things.
Just talking about that is giving me like flashbacks of the when the kids were at home learning, and I put that in quotation marks, and not because of their teachers, but it was just impossible. They were learning from home, and I was working from home, and the puppy was barking, and the mail. It was just, you know, um, I think during this pandemic, we kind of saw a shift in who in our society, like the services that we need in our society. For example, people who were working in groceries, they were considered frontline workers, and they became the glue that held our society together. Pay equity has been a popular talking point during this pandemic. What has Polly uncovered about wage fairness?
We're definitely seeing a lot of people. We're seeing people say things like, it's not that we have a worker shortage in Canada, we have a shortage of employers wanting to pay more for workers. So, as much as I said earlier that people are less concerned about money, that's actually for the people who are making more money. For the people who are in occupations like hospitality or working in retail or in grocery stores, we still see obviously people are very concerned about money, and in particular people have been talking about a living wage and saying that $15 to $20 is a more realistic wage, especially for people who are living in urban environments. So we're definitely seeing, and people are saying if there is a worker shortage, then now is the time to have those conversations about living wage again.
You mentioned work culture. What has Polly picked up regarding a more inclusive workplace?
For me, one of the more interesting things that we saw, that both employers and workers are hoping that this topic of engagement in the workplace and the Great Resignation, and also the fact that more people are able to work from home, and we've seen that's worked, will enable us to bring in more people who have traditionally been marginalized. So, for example, disabled people. We have seen an uptick in people with disabilities feeling much more hopeful that, okay, if I'm in a wheelchair and it's hard, it's a burden for me to get downtown and all of that stuff. Now, if I can just work from home, I can get those, better paying jobs and things like that, because people with disability typically are overrepresented in lower income brackets. And we're also seeing that perhaps we'll have more opportunity for racialized individuals to come into the workplace. And we're also seeing that with employers saying, yeah, they want to attract those workers as well. And they want to have that inclusive, diverse workplace because it means they have more people to pull from. They have more people that they can promote. And now on the downside, perhaps for Canadian workers, there is also increased talk about, well, if everybody's working from home, then what is to stop me from hiring people in lower income areas where I can save money? There's also a feeling that if you're working from home, maybe employers are very aware that people are saying I would take a lower income to work from home. And, so that it works both ways. And so, but we're definitely seeing a lot of chatter about those issues.
At the beginning of the pandemic, there were videos of, people getting used to using Zoom, or even just like adjusting to wearing like jogging pants. I'm imagining when we go back into the office, people will be like, why am I wearing these hard pants? This doesn't feel, it doesn't feel right. What has Polly uncovered about people's true feelings about working from home?
It's very conflicted. So on the one hand, people are saying, yeah, I like working from home. I save money on the commute. There's no point in me going downtown just to sit in front of a computer. Some people have moved away, so that makes the commute even worse. But we're also seeing people say, if you're in your house 365 days a week, sometimes your home can be toxic too, right? Sometimes you just need to get away. You might miss having lunch with your friends. You might miss just a break from the sameness. And and the problem is, and people are having all sorts of discussions about it. Do we have a hybrid workplace? But the problem is, if it's hybrid for everyone, and everyone's going to want Friday off, and you can't, close the office on Friday. But also, if people have the choice to come and go as they please, you might be going into the office on a day when nobody else is going in, and you're feeling lonely, or you're with the office mate you can't stand. Your friends aren't there. So, and there's a real feeling of, I miss the camaraderie as much as I don't miss the commute, and I like having all this money in my bank account. I miss the camaraderie.
Well, I was going to ask, does Polly see what people want? Do they want a hybrid, or do they want the 4-day work week, or, they get to choose, or the boss chooses?
Well, so right now, a lot of people are saying they want the 4-day work week. I guess the challenge I'd be interested to see is how might that evolve when inflation starts going through the roof? Because obviously, if you're going to work 4 days a week, your employer is going to expect to be paying you less, 20% less perhaps. And are people ready for that? Now, maybe you say, okay, well, I'm not commuting and I'm saving so much time, so it's worth it. But in a era of inflation and stuff, maybe they won't be. But we're definitely seeing a lot of conversations. We're not seeing a lot of agreement on the same things that people want. And that's the challenge if you're an employer is, you could easily say, okay, everybody work from home, but then they are seeing mental health. People are admitting they're having mental health issues like working from home. So you don't want that. And the workplace culture obviously suffers. So in the hybrid, it depends how that works out. But like I said, you could end up coming into work when your friends aren't there or what have you. So it is going to be a challenge.
For me, the commute to work used to be my me time. We all need to be in the same space. I think we just have to figure out, do we do the handshake? Do we do the elbow? Do we do the bump? But Erin, thank you so much. Every time I speak to you, I feel a little bit smarter. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks.
That chat was part of The Thread hosted by me. And if you want to see more videos, you can look here and here. Subscribe to our channel or follow us on Instagram at TVO The Thread. See you next time.